Somebody says to you, do you fancy going to see a film? Oh, well, I don't know. Will there be blood? There will be blood, right? I'm in. I mean, that is a fucking great title for a film. I mean, you couldn't have a better title for a film. Apart from maybe There Will Be Tits.
Sup internet, Raggedy Adams here. Speaking of IMAX, some of you may have already seen or are planning on going to see the film Gravity by Alfonso Cuarón. And whilst I will admit I'm very interested in seeing it myself, I'm also dreading it because, as some of you may well remember from way the hell back in my YouTube survey video, which I'll put a link to there, I do not do well with gravity, or heights, or flying, or anything. Basically, I get vertigo looking up at tall buildings and going over bridges which have traffic running underneath them. So naturally, if you've seen any of the trailers for Gravity, you will be able to see just how terrified I am just watching them on a computer. If I can't deal with it at 1080p on a teeny weeny laptop screen, how the fuck am I going to manage with it on big fuck off IMAX screen? I just don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm not saying I'm not going to go see it. I want to, it's just that fuck. Just while we're on the subject of films and cinema and music anyway, there's a couple of recommendations I'd like to make. For any of you who are interested in films about rock music in general, there's a really good documentary. I've got my DVD copy of it here. It Might Get Loud. And it's basically about The Edge from U2, Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin, and Jack White getting together in a warehouse and jamming together. And interspersed with that is documentary footage from their lives and careers and talking about their influences and how they got into music, and it's really good. I would recommend it to anyone who likes any of the music of U2 or Led Zeppelin or the White Stripes, or even if you're not a big music fan. I would still recommend it to anyone as a really good starter. It also has a particularly sentimental place in my heart because I saw it at the cinema on my birthday a couple of years ago. Another one, which I've seen in the cinema and was also lucky enough to recently get on DVD, is Joss Whedon's version of Much Ado About Nothing. And it stars a lot of people from projects that he's previously worked on. It stars Amy Ackern, Alexei Denisov from Angel, Clark Gregg, who plays Agent Coulson in the Marvel films, Frank Kranz, who was in Cabin in the Woods, and Sean Mayer and Nathan Fillion from Firefly and Serenity. And it's just a really well put together film. It gets the drama of the original text across without being showy, and it approaches it with a sort of modernist take without crowbarring it in. It shows that you can make Shakespeare relevant without crowbarring it into a different setting or a different language. And that's something I really appreciate. Similarly good is Ralph Fiennes' version of Corialanus, which stars him and Gerard Butler, Vanessa Redgrave, Brian Cox, Jessica Chastain, and James Nesbitt. He also directed it as well. And what you get with this one is something that's a lot more action-packed and kinetic while still having the underlying text there. So that's good. The next one I want to recommend is a horror film called Excision, which is it's a low-budget independent horror film, but it was recommended to me in an article by Kim Newman, and it has Annalyn McCord as this high school girl who lives in this very clean, very pristine middle American town, and basically she is obsessed with the macabre. She wants to be a surgeon, and she has these weird, twisted fantasies about necrophilia and surgically removing people's organs and things. It's sort of like a cross between American Psycho and Ghost World. It's got a very dark, very black sense of humour, but it's got loads of really interesting cameos in it, and I thought it was a really funny movie. And finally, one last documentary for you, the film Chicago 10. I love Chicago 10. It's basically a documentary by Brett Morgan, who also did the film version of The Kid Stays in the Picture. And it's about the trial of the Chicago 8 in the 1960s. And it uses archive footage and transcripts and reconstructions to show what happened when demonstrators and riot police clashed at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago in 1968. And it's got a pretty impressive roster of people who did voiceover narration for it and voiced characters in the transcripted sections. It has Hank Azaria in the main role of Abby Hoffman. Dylan Baker from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies is in it. Nick Nolte is in it. Mark Ruffalo is in it. Liev Schreiber, Jeffrey Wright, who plays Bobby Seale, who was a member of the Black Panther Party. And I believe this is one of Roy Scheider's last roles as well, and he plays the very old and grizzled and practically senile Judge Hoffman, who is constantly at odds with the defendants. And the tagline, as you can probably just see there, is, "The convention was drama, the trial was comedy." And that kind of sums up the film to me, I think. It's that kind of struggle between the status quo and the young and the new. And it raises a lot of questions that we're still struggling with today, with like the Occupy movement and the wars in the Middle East and the public's role in supporting or pushing back against social injustices. So those are my recommendations. I bought most of these films online, so you can probably find most of them on Amazon or through reputable retailers. So, in the meantime, Raggedy Adams out.